transition out of the military and find success. I'm super excited to get to learn a little bit more about not only Randall, but his current role in AI enhanced coaching strategies, and learn a little bit more about you. So first of all, Randall, welcome and thank you for being here. And secondly, would you mind just introducing yourself and giving us a little bit of information about your background?
Happy to, Tyler. Thank you very much for having me and appreciate it. And hopefully today I'll answer a lot of questions that you guys all gals might have. The landscape's changed a whole lot, and that's kind of how I fell into this. I got out of the military, didn't really know what I wanted to do. Took me a long time to figure it out, but at the same time, I had already naturally had a good network, and you will find out that the better jobs that you're going to find throughout your career are not going to come from some job posting. It's going to come through an acquaintance of someone like that. So like I networked into the last 10 years plus of my jobs just by, being at the right place at the right time, knowing how to network properly and just kind of communicate with people. And again, a lot of times it's just someone taking a chance on you or a friend of a friend. Pre-COVID, when everyone was losing their jobs, I had one recruiter just take a chance on me, and it made the biggest difference, and it got me back into the contracting world. And then fast forward, I just ended up during the Afghanistan withdrawal helping out a lot of people, and at the same time learning a lot myself about what makes a good resume, what makes good networking. Because I can also tell you, I've done some bad networking myself, but that's kind of how I fell into this whole process to where I networked into site management and program management with KBR. So now I kind of go and show people how that works, how to go and network properly, how to be aggressive in the right way and at the right time, and how a resume itself isn't really going to be enough anymore moving forward with all the technology through AI and all the ATS systems out there these days. So it's kind of how I got this started to where I help people get past that.
Yeah, that's awesome. So I noticed a lot of stops on your resume. So one of the things that we teach as we are bringing students from our foundations module into connections is that 76% of veterans land in a different job within the first 2 years out of the military. So 2 years out of the military, 76% of vets are in a different job than the one they took day one. So could you talk to me a little bit about like how that worked for you and sort of how that might also pertain to the group here today?
Yeah, when I took my first job out of the military, I was gung ho, gonna do whatever they need to call you in. I'm there. And then I found out really quickly. It ended up working at Marshall's, just organizing stuff, but it was just right next door. I was going to school at the time, but it was still a great learning opportunity to where I learned what it was like on the civilian side, where my expectations of what someone can do drastically changed a whole lot. And then started understanding, okay, how I think things should be working. They do it a lot differently, some in a lot of manners. So it taught me a lot. Every job I learned something new, what I wanted to do and what I didn't want to do, but also what I liked having in a job, but what I didn't like having in a job. And so that's kind of what's really made a difference in me to where now when I get to a new job, I always tell people don't stop looking for a new job yet. Still get practicing because you're in the honeymoon phase. So like, everyone knows that for your first 30 to 90 days, everything's great. You're not going to see all the ugly stuff right away yet. If you guys know what I'm talking about, they usually wait for a while, or those things slowly start sinking in a little bit where, hey, Tyler, I know I hired you for this job and do this role, and here's your task, but here's a whole bunch of more tasks you now need to be doing. And then, another month later, here's a whole bunch of more gets put on you. So it's taught me a lot to keep looking, but also knowing when I have something that I like, it's okay to be happy, if that makes sense at the same time. So I know a lot of us are constantly, Tyler, I got to move. I got to keep growing, got to keep doing something. Sometimes it's just nice to relax and kind of get a feel for the landscape and everything and what's going on.
Yeah, so that was a really good point. And what's crazy, Randall, is that I won't dime out the company, but
Hmm.
we spoke. I don't know if it was about 2 or 3 months ago, so I don't know if any of these students were here for it, but about 2 or 3 months ago, a representative from a top media company came in, and we're talking like chief operating officer of a top media company came in. Obviously, so like the number two guy in charge, and he's like, I'm applying and interviewing to jobs every week. He said, I never stop. I just keep doing it. He's like, I got the best job in the world, but you never know what tomorrow's going to
Mhm.
bring. So I'm always looking for that next thing. So I appreciate you saying that because it's sort of, I mean, like that's not the first time we've heard that. So, um, by the way, so for the students on the call today, just so you know, Randall, all of these folks are in the DoD Skill Bridge program. Are you familiar with that program?
Very familiar with it.
Yeah, so these folks are all transitioning out of the military. They're all within their last 6 months of service. Some veterans on the call because we do open up our academy to veterans and military spouses as well, but most of them are going to be in that transitioning space. And so, if you guys, by the way, if anybody has any questions for Randall as we go on, just per normal, just throw your hand up, and I'll call on you in between my questioning and things like that. But we have some new folks on the call as well that just completed our foundations module. So to give you an idea, our Seven Eagle Academy is broken up into 3 modules. So we have the foundations module where our students get that foundational knowledge, like you talked about, like the resume, the LinkedIn, and networking, and all that stuff. And then they roll into here, which is where we introduce them to folks like you, veterans have transitioned out of the military. They're in the corporate world. Successful, found jobs that they enjoy, that they love, things like that they can come back and mentor these students and help provide a network, a community of support that can help them out during the transition. And then with all of them, their goal is to get into an OJT with a company. So get that on the ground experience. I don't know if you heard me talking with Timothy about that, but like you just finish up your PMP, like let's put that thing to work, right? And put some bullets on our EPR or EPR. There's my Air Force creeping back in. Get some bullets on that resume about using that stuff. So and get the experience. And during that OJT period, they actually are able to work with those companies unpaid, no salary, no benefits, because they're still getting paid by the government.
Right.
So, but yeah, I know they changed it to EPB too. So I'm not even in the right space here. But hey, would you mind telling us a little bit more about your what you're working on now?
Yeah, so when I started going on, as I said, during the Afghanistan withdrawal, I did 4 block. I did a lot of these other programs, ACP, and I learned a lot of things at the same time, like what makes a good resume and all these different things. And I was always helping people out. And as I was contracting, I was starting to realize that anyone that's been like a government contractor, work with contractors, it's very much, you not really need a resume so much. Back in the day, you just had to know someone, that was it. Where things are starting to change a whole lot, and where I was starting to see a lot more of the ATS and the AI stuff being involved. So when I was working with KBR, I started noticing, and with other companies I worked for, like KBR is a great company. I had a great time working for them. But I saw a lot of the same challenges that they were running into, especially when it came to hiring people, because I've seen it, Tyler, I've got 2 candidates, 20 plus years. One's only considered for the lowest level escort position, that's the lowest paying job, versus someone that's considered for a program manager or director. What's the difference? And it has to do with your resume, your LinkedIn profile, and how you're networking. But over time, I started just kind of fell into this career coaching with AI, and like I don't really spend a whole lot of time tailoring my resumes. I plug it in through AI, through a bot that I've built that knows me, because it's not something as simple as just plugging in. And that's kind of how I fell into this business now, where I teach people how to go and do that themselves. Because once you learn how to do it, once you know how to go and get your resume done, your LinkedIn profile, how to network, because this really is going to be the future. It used to be you can go stuff your resume with just keywords left and right. Now it has AI in there to tell you that you're just kind of cramming them in there. So as we get smarter as job seekers, companies get smarter too. And I've also seen it before, everyone, where I've been on a job interview with someone and I had to stop the person that we were looking to hire. I'm like, what job do you think you're applying for? And they're like, oh, some leadership role. I'm like, no, this is the lowest level escort position. Like, I don't know how you could have gotten that. And it
Right.
just kind of like it shows you that things are different, and how you kind of need someone rooting for you. And again, that's how I fell into this, because I was tired of good people getting the short end of the stick. So that's how I fell into AI enhanced career coaching, helping out veterans, contractors, and those at kind of corporate and the management level make a difference where they can get ahead.
Would you say more of your clientele are landing jobs like directly with the federal government or with companies like Boeing, Lockheed, and stuff like that?
Like Boeing and Lockheed and those types of ones. Big difference. I knew with the government shrinking, like I didn't want to go and be focusing on that. So, and then government contracting, government's always going to spend money. Yeah,
Right.
they're going to try and cut costs, but as they go and spend money, there's that contract. One job is just going to shift to somewhere else. But if you
Yeah.
don't know where that job is going or who or how to even get to that other job, I mean, like whoever thought we'd be going looking at contracts now in South America? Well, we have Carrier down there. Okay, so they're going to need contracts to go and support those operations for the next couple of years. So contract shifts from say the Middle East to over there, but you just got to kind of have your ear to the ground. That's again where having an expert, someone like me, that's always looking into these things, kind of doing the work for you, helping you out.
Yeah. Do me a favor if you guys are looking for government contractor type jobs like the Boeings, the Lockheeds, the Northrop Grummans. I know some of you, yeah, throw one for me.
They're
You guys
great
are,
career fields. They're great.
is anybody having trouble getting, so there's a lot of ones in the chat. So is there anybody that's having trouble landing those jobs or landing interviews for those jobs? Throw a two. All right.
Yes,
So you
this
guys,
is
if you're having struggles with that, this is an opportunity for you. Ask your questions to Randall. Say, hey, this is what I'm having trouble with. Throw your hand up. I'll call on you. Get his advice. I have a feeling. I have a feeling that Randall has a service that he can introduce to you guys. But we have him here for about 45 minutes. We can ask him what questions we have, and I bet you he'll help us out and answer them. So, yeah, Tim, go ahead, brother. Tim's a fellow Navy guy, by the way.
right on, Tim.
Hey, how you doing? Tim Harrison. Um, so like I put in the chat, I had a interview with Northrop 2 weeks ago, I think it was. Entry level position, security analyst, built the resume out based off job description, had an internal referral based on that from one a fellow chief that's in the area.
Mhm.
Interview went great. They used a star method, strong opening, went through the star questions, a strong closing. Um, the biggest thing was, I guess, I mean, my takeaway from it, because it was entry level and talking about using the star method based on what, the past 10 years,
Hmm.
the humble pie, if you want to say, using that and talking leadership and talking teamwork. I think that's kind of what kind of hurt me because it was all about team and all about leadership, and they wanted I, and that's obviously institutionalization is not what we're built on. Um, just one of those things. Just want to share that. Um, looking back now, kind of understand it ish. Um, but there again, also got feedback stating, hey, there was somebody internal they were looking at, and they kind of hired through that way. Um, what's the what's the easiest way to break that mentality? I mean, I know for this is going to sound
It's
super
gonna
bad,
be
but
it's you're so you're always going to have those things, and it's going to be really hard to change it right now. The one thing why I really like focusing more on this industry than say like any other industry right now is what's happening in a lot of these industries. Everyone, they're having retirements in the next 3, 5, 10 years. You just I forget what major like consulting company did like a study on it that most like over 60% of these companies don't have any pipeline to go backfill these people properly. When I was worked at all these big companies before, there's massive gaps on where people are going to be retiring versus people that can actually fill that. So I'd say that in regards that people that have the old school mentality, that's kind of shifting out a little bit. I've seen, in my opinion, starting to see people more in there like, hey, we just need someone to get the job done. Because also right now, the government's raising their standards. So and like trying to go and get it for lower cost. So it's getting even harder. So we're used to do maybe one job, and now you're doing two. So with a lot of these companies, how they're going to break past that is you have to be building a network, not just with one individual, but with multiple individuals. So when I would go and apply for a job that I was really interested in, or how I was trying to network into it, as soon as it was a job that I was specifically looking for on a contract, I applied for it, I had no joke, I got 40, 50 recruiters at least from all these companies. I'm emailing almost every single one of them. I'm sending them a message like, hey, this is what I like. This is what I'm interested in. Here's the job description. And I was getting interviews over it. The other thing you'd be doing is when you apply for this interview, you want to make sure that yes, your resume does a good job, but keep in mind that we are judging you on those resumes. So outside of the ATS things, so because your specific example was you got pulled in, so you just got to say, where is the base of your resume? Because some of these companies, they may have a 50,000 or 80,000 or 100,000 salary range. So Timothy, maybe you're 100 or maybe you're 200,000. So maybe it doesn't, we don't know where you are, or someone else is on that. So we want to make sure that your resume is always showing the high end, because that means they value you more. So they're going to weigh those things in there. We're like, hey, I have Timothy, I have other candidate, and I have an internal that's maybe a buddy of mine. What's my challenges, and how much is Timothy, how well does his resume make him look? Because that's going to anchor their position. They're going to immediately think that you're better than average if they're going to think highly of you. Same thing when they look at your LinkedIn profile, they're going to start thinking highly of you. And when they interview, they're already going to be on the high end of what they think about you. It's psychology right there, just to get a little bit of that. So that's how those things start playing in, Timothy. And then also it's a numbers game too. Like, you're just not going to get it sometimes. Like, we open up jobs where we already have someone in mind. No one's going to change some of the hiring manager's mind. It's set and done. And it is what it is on that. And sometimes it's just, the other thing is, Timothy, we sometimes have so many people applying for a particular role that's maybe a hot job. We can be patient. We can go and say, hey, we're going to go wait, or we're going to go pick the number one person. So unless we get all the unicorns, that's what we're going to hire, that unicorn, if we can find them. Because some of these jobs, Timothy, and site manager, you're getting tons. A lot of these things are different types of jobs. Does that kind of answer your question a little bit, Timothy?
Yeah, it does. And that was a thing too, even like you mentioned the pay, because they did put their pay range, and I even put the lower third of the pay range, because I was like, all right, hey, entry level, let's look at it with TS. TS still has years left on it, the whole 9 yards. And I'm like, all right, cool. Let's see where it stands. And I was like, all right, well, that one kind of kicked the can down the road.
What I can do is kind of help out, explain some of these things. A lot more of these recruiters are used to, and a lot of these contracting, that they just had the network already. Well, a lot of that network's going away now. So some of these recruiters are used to the old style ways where I don't have to really work hard for this job, or it really doesn't matter. Because, keep in mind this. So we had a recruitment team trying to hire for one position at this one location for 2 years. Took me 10 days being active on LinkedIn and on Facebook to find a job, or to find this person. So it took me less than 10 days by myself. Just, anyone on Facebook need a job, anyone on LinkedIn need a job. Someone got, and we had she got hired. They loved her. She's perfect for the role. Recruitment team, 2 years, couldn't do it. So a lot of them are stuck in the old mindset where they just think everything's going to come to them, and it's not like that. The other thing is, these ATSs, there's a lot of them, and they almost all use AI in some way, shape, or form now, to where if they can't go and like see you, so to speak, and you are a number, you have to change that perception of you're a number right away by having them look at that resume if they don't know who you are. So yes, it's harder, but like how I would go and get companies reaching back out to me was make sure my resume matched up to that. So that's where you have to have a good resume in the first place, because you see all these, everyone out here sees all this AI stuff, like, hey, just throw it in here and fix it. Well, that's great, but the AI can only do as good as the context and information you give it. So like, that's why when someone works with me, they have a questionnaire. It usually takes them 30 to 60 minutes, answers a whole bunch of questions for me. Then we utilize the information as context. Then we're able to start pushing out stuff that's specific to them. Because that top 1/3 of your resume, that's the most important thing. If it doesn't catch them in from your professional summary to your top keywords to making sure that top part has metrics, because there's a big difference of saying, hey, Tyler, I know I'm interested in this job. I've only done $1 million annually in just like a budget, versus, hey, Tyler, I've done $10 million in a budget annually, versus, hey, Tyler, I've done $100 million budget annually. It also tells us 3 different levels of your leadership and management style of what you're capable of. So that's where a lot of these things come into play. So companies, not just for contracting, the ATS, that's kind of the first step. Yeah, you really have to put a lot of effort into your resume. You really have to tailor. I strongly recommend everyone has one of those like skill sinker that matches up your resume to the job description. If you're not meeting 90, 95% of it, and yeah, you're gonna have to rewrite it a whole bunch of times, it's going to be hard for these jobs that a lot of people want. And then there's the next part, people finding you through LinkedIn. That's a whole separate story, which we can get into a little bit if we want to later. But then you also have your networking strategy where everything comes into play, where it gets you in the door. And that's just where you have to be a really good communicator as well. We say if you want to see how good of a communicator you are, record yourself just answering, everyone knows this, tell me about yourself, because that's one of I always ask that question. It's always good to be able to answer that in 30, 60 seconds. Then when you go and watch it for the first time, turn off the volume. So you just kind of watch your body language. Are you a crazy person going all over the place with your hands? Because I've seen people do it. So you want to make sure that you are doing it in an appropriate manner. Then the next time, don't watch it, but listen to it only. How do you sound? Do you sound confident? Do you throw at the high pitch at the end that makes it sound more of a question mark? And then at the end, the last time, watch yourself and listen to yourself at the same time. That will give you a good indicator what type of speaker you are, and help and see where you might make some improvements as well. I hope that kind of gives like a good generalization. It really is making a difference now where you do need the more people going after a particular role, the higher the standard is going to be. So just kind of doing some things yourself isn't going to be good enough unless you're going to invest the time to learn how to do it and then how to execute how to do it. So kind of just as up to you guys. You guys are going to learn a lot from the program. It's pretty good.
Is Matrix on the call? Are you still here? Saw you threw a 2 in the chat. Where are you at, Matrix? Let's go with Travis. I don't know how to pronounce your last name, Travis Z. What is your current struggle right now with getting a government contractor job?
Hey, Randall, thanks for coming on. So my struggle, so with me remaining overseas, particularly here in South Korea, I'm having a lot of trouble finding positions within my desired field, aircraft technician. Looking all over the place, LinkedIn, Indeed, Glassdoor, all these job sites, company websites. A lot of these positions that I'm finding are based stateside, and so and the government shutdown is also impacting that with the local resources that track the positions on the post. They're not available, and so trying to find something, I don't know where else to look.
Love that you're overseas. I always say if anyone isn't, always talk to someone that's been overseas on a contract. It's really good, even for a couple of years. Love that, overseas is a great opportunity. But when it comes to something like that, it could come down to, is there everything shut down just right now out of respect? Kind of putting that to the side. Are there contracts on hold? What type of issues are they having? Like, are they able to, do they already have a pipeline built up maybe? Because a lot of these times, depending on the type of role, that certain position might be extremely critical. So they're going to consistently or try to keep that pipeline fresh, depending. But you're also in a niche industry. So being in the aircraft side of things, once you kind of build up a good network out there, did you say that you've done it already, or you're already on a contract, or you're transitioning out of the military? Correct? You're transitioning out, correct?
Transitioning out, yeah.
Okay. So that's I strongly recommend going over to those companies that are doing it. I'm going to tell you, when I worked in Saudi, we hired a lot of people from that were just the Air Force. It was just there, just did the rotation. And as they left out, they transitioned and came right over. So that's the first thing I tell you right there is go talk to these companies. Maybe they're looking to hire someone. Maybe they worked with you and they liked you like that. If the contracting company likes you, just being able to work with us, like dealt with a lot of rotations, and it was always a kind of a clash instead of a building relationships. But if you're one of those rotations where it's a great relationship, they'll do what they can to either bring you on location or somewhere else. So that'd be step one. I'd go and tell you, making sure that, and then at the same time, also networking with the recruiters. Like you're not, a lot of these recruiters, they move around. So who might be doing one location in one area, it might be different, but also keep in mind, all of them have, a lot of these companies, you guys, they have, I don't want to say quotas, but like incentives towards hiring veterans. So like KBRs is like to hire 5 or 10% veterans. So when you start saying that, makes it easier for them to go and pick you as well. But the other thing is a lot of them have their own veteran programs. So special veteran hiring groups. So find the veteran hiring program manager or something along those lines that's in these companies. And then that's your kind of like foot in the door. So like that's a recruiter that's specifically looking for someone like you. Like that's their target, you know, veterans to help them out. So don't forget to go and utilize that as well. Like that's a great asset right there to make it a lot easier too.
Thank you.
Yeah. Did that answer your question pretty well? Like where you're at right now, because it's going to be the networking and the applying the jobs and making sure there are readily available jobs out there.
Yeah, it did.
Awesome. Let's see. Phelan, could you tell us about some of the issues you're having with securing a contractor position and see if there's any way Randall can help?
Yeah, sure. So, I still have quite a like 5 months left in my skill bridge. I've been just doing a lot more research about what's in my area. I did apply to Raytheon, and through a referral link, I did get in touch with a recruiter, but I didn't even get a foot in the door on that, surprisingly. I work on electronic warfare pods, jammers, essentially that go on attack aircraft. And for the position I applied for was pretty much that same, because we have like Raytheon parts that I work with, and it was a part of a lot of the testing and calibration. And I didn't even get a foot in the door really. The only thing I got was an email saying back that like basically it was my application was denied. And so now I'm just trying to look more locally. There's two companies I'm keeping in mind, but I'm trying to find recruiters for Torch and Kratos. So those are two smaller contracting companies around here for compared to Raytheon anyway. But it's just like I don't really understand why I didn't get like any like at least a call or anything, right? It was just like an automated thing, and I feel like I've put a lot of time in my resume. Um, I've spent like I don't know, like a year trying to get in the skill bridge and working on my resume on top of that before any of this. So it was just like I don't know. It was a little bit like kind of felt like I just got stepped on or stepped over, but I don't know. Still trying. I still got plenty of time, but I'm just trying to be more, I guess, cautious, slow, make sure I make that initial connection, like Tyler was saying. So, uh, I don't really know what your input is on any of that, but that's what I've been going through.
Yeah, I'm sure a lot of people have questions why maybe don't get a call back or um, let's start with that. So say they get like one job gets, you know, and they only need a certain percentage, you know, say 100 people apply to a job. For some of these roles will get 100 plus people applying to it. They're only going to take what the ATS and the AI is going to do is it's going to take those 100 resumes and then sort them by percentage or who gets the closest match to the job description. And then they're going to have people look at those top ones and they're going to agree, and then they're going to take those 10, and then the rest are, they're not going to necessarily be denied, but they're just not going to be looked at. So you can consider it being denied, or just, you know, you just didn't make the cut. And then they're going to look at these groups and that's where they're going to then do, some of these companies will do an initial conversation with you, with the recruiter, where the recruiter is just going to get a feel for you. Do they like you or do they not like you? And then it goes on to the next step, to the hiring manager. So that's what happens with a lot of these things. So if it's denied and you kind of get a letter quickly, it could be various different things. You know, you were among those lower ends where they didn't look at. So that's why one reason. They already have candidates in mind to move forward, because trust me, sometimes they have multiple people internally or people they have in mind already. So again, just kind of pushed aside. So then they go and look at the other individuals, or that one, it's they haven't been awarded the contract, so they might do that. Or here's the other thing, they have a requisition open, they need to just go and have it open. Plain and simple. We have no intention of filling that role necessarily. We're just gonna let it sit for 6 months if we can, see if we can do this without doing cut costs. Okay, but that requisition is going to be open just in case if we have to or anything changes potentially like that, and then they'll go and do it. Then they'll go hire someone. So, and then there's also, keep in mind, there's other aspects, everyone, that companies want to see, like what type of applicants do they have available. So that's where they do like the fake job, so to speak. Hey, if I want to go and see how good the market is for this specific position, I'm going to put it out there. So again, there's a lot of different reasons. So I don't want anyone to get like discouraged. There's a lot of reasons why you could get that, why you get to a certain place. There's so many different things, from, applying to the program manager or the director. They already know who's going to do it. So it doesn't matter how many people you think like at the lower end. If you're the program manager or director and the VP has in mind for someone, but everyone else below is like, oh, we like our person, guess who's going to win? The highest ranking person. That's how it's going to work. So there's all these things you just never know sometimes.
Thank you, Randall.
Awesome. Let's see. Aaron Trimble, what are you struggling with, brother?
So I'm kind of in the same boat as well. I'm, applying a lot. I tailor my resume, but just getting that initial response or callback. Does that make sense? So I'm kind of in the same boat as everyone before me that's spoke here. I'm just looking for that chance, right? You put me in front of someone. I know that my work and my ability will kind of speak for itself, but just getting that chance is hard at this point.
Yeah, that's where some of this is a numbers game. When you want to be networking with individuals that are at the company that you want to be doing. So recruiters, who's potentially doing what you're doing, who's going to be a level higher. So this way you can just have a conversation with them. Keep in mind, not a lot of people are from the contracting world, veterans, as we're transitioning out. We're learning about LinkedIn a little bit. So we may not be on there, we may not be so active, but this is going to be the biggest change in the next couple of years, is utilizing LinkedIn, where your resume is going to matter a lot less, where LinkedIn is going to matter a lot more. And that's going to be your network, your connections, how you're strategically reaching out to these individuals. So like when I'm going and networking with these companies, individuals, I'm going after the recruiters. You have two different types of recruiters. You have one building up the pipeline, one, then one's actively recruiting. Make sure you're connecting with them all. Then I'll go and connect us who's at the location that I'm interested in. I'm gonna have conversations with them, start figuring out where is home base at. So I'm starting networking with people at home base states in North Carolina or Houston. I'm gonna start connecting with individuals at those places. And I'm gonna start talking like, oh, this person works, oh, this recruiter, okay, this is who I need to talk to. They are the ones that go and handle the Middle East. Then you're just gonna kind of just be, active on there. That's a great way to stay on top of things. So your resume is for when you're being active. LinkedIn's how being passive, where you're drawing people to you. So that's making sure that you have the job titles you want, because you're supposed to have in the main formula that a lot of people use is one or two job titles, a couple of key skills, that are the top ones in there, and then kind of like a value add statement, like how you provide value with like a metric or two in there. This way you come up in a job search. So when they're looking for operations manager, you're going to pull up higher probability of it. Then you have your three key skills that matter most to operations manager, helps pull you in, then help someone look at that. So as we're progressing, especially in the contracting world, they're getting used to these things now, where I get to pay attention to this, this, and this. And anytime I see a red flag, you're gone. Does that also help out? Like, I know that kind of like a long-winded, but I want to show like it's not as simple before where, hey, Tyler, I'm interested, here's my resume, or here's my cover letter. It's not just those things anymore. That you got to have everything down, especially the higher up you go. And then sometimes they're just picky and choosy as well. So depending on the role, the more senior it gets, the more nitpicky they get to be. And so that's where it becomes harder in a lot of these things, to where maybe that position also in a certain location pays really well. So everyone wants to go there as well. You don't know about this. So maybe there's a ton of internal referrals, and it's like hey Tyler, can I get a job in Dubai making 100, where some of these contracts are just 120 to 180,000. Oh, and where you pay for my vehicle, you pay for my fuel, pay for my health insurance, pay for my $30,000, $40,000 annual living. Everyone, their mom's applying to these places too. So like, maybe if you don't know, others might know. When I went to Qatar, I found out that Qatar, where I was staying at there, they call it the retirement area, because everything moves really slow and no one really works really hard out there. So like, that's also, again, where you don't know what you don't know as well. So kind of helps out in a lot of different ways, but AI and ATS has made it very different than it is before. And it's not as simple as recruiters just look at every single resume. Now it's just a numbers game. So every little bit that you do to help yourself out, from you do this one thing in LinkedIn, you do this in networking, you do these two other things in LinkedIn, it's going to help you stand out even more.
I appreciate that. Thanks.
Yep.
Great advice. Hey, thanks. Robert, what's your question, brother?
Thank you for calling me out. Hey, I've been out for 14 years, and my biggest issue in San Diego is my security clearance has expired. Every role for what I can do needs a security clearance within the area. Majority of maybe 85% of the companies around here want that. And if I need to go for that civilian side, I need 20 years experience, which I only got 6. So I'm just trying to figure out, most companies don't want to pay for a security clearance. What is the approach for that then?
Companies will go and sponsor. So each contract's going to be a little bit different, where companies will go and sponsor and some won't, but also depends on how desperate a company is. So if it's a hard to fill position and certain experience, because a lot of things are these job descriptions, depending on the level. So like, what I need for an escort is very different from requirements I need from a contract job. So a contract job is very specific. So when you're doing a lot of these things and trying to pay attention, to go look at the job descriptions, that's where you're going to see if the company's willing to sponsor you or not. So you're going to see, it's going to say either has the clearance or has the ability to obtain, or they'll straight up go and say, hey, we'll sponsor you. But otherwise, who still apply? That's what's still networking. Then they go and tell you, like, are they willing to make an exception? Because or at the very least, you can go and say, if you ever get your foot in the door, what about an interim clearance? The interim clearance is they approve you while they do a deeper dive, and then you still get to go to the job. So that's the other thing. Even if they say no, you have to have your clearance. Well, what about an interim clearance? Interim clearance usually takes about 30 days to maybe 60 days for top secret. Can't remember top secret's around 60, I want to say. But once they get that, then you're good to go. Then you just move forward. Because you think about this, especially if you're overseas, it'll most likely take around a month for you to get out there. So then whatever time it takes from the open rec to hiring you to you accepting then doing an 89 SF 86 or 86, 89, 86, filling that out, then doing all this other stuff usually takes about a month. So keep that in mind as well. But that's going to be your best way. Company that says ability to obtain or willing to sponsor. Or again, network into it. The company, if they have someone pushing for you, they'll do it.
I get that, but as soon as I put, it says, ability to acquire, and I say no, I get auto denied in their recs automatically. Well, I fit all the bullets of everything else, and I still get auto denied from their system, and that's the only thing that can ding me. So yes, it does say in their forms ability to acquire, but if I'm getting auto deny, it tells me they're not up for it. They can say it on their documents and on their forms, but it doesn't really matter. I have talked to people who are, recruiters, and they tell me, yes, they say it, but they're not going to do it. So,
So maybe I misheard. You said you say yes or have the ability to obtain. Like
so in the rec, no. it says in the bill, it says security clearance this or ability to acquire. I state on the forms, it says, do you have clearance? I say no. Because it doesn't say, can you get it? It says, do you have it right now? And if I say no, and I say yes to everything else that they requires for the job role, and I meet the requirements for everything, and automatically get a denial letter as soon as I send it in. Like, I send it in, we received it. 5 minutes later, auto no.
Again, there could be multiple reasons. Again, that, hey, they have enough potential individuals. I've filled that role already. So that requirement changed to where now they don't need someone that doesn't currently have one. Because again, it takes time to get a clearance, to go and activate it. It does take time. So are they willing to wait it? Maybe, maybe not. The other thing is it could be that, your resume didn't go through the ATS and it didn't approve of it and it kicked it out. So it is not as easy what people think it is to make sure that your resume beats. I don't necessarily use the word beats, but I hope you're using one of those websites where it compares your job description against it, making sure you're doing that. So I would always make sure, if you're not doing that, to use that. But then it's also checking out which way is going to best work for your resume. Make sure, again, numbers, metrics. But for something automatic like that, it could be like one of those two reasons that I mentioned earlier, or maybe something else that I'm just not fully aware of.
That's a tough one, man. In all honesty, and this might not be what you want to hear, but I'd start spreading the wings and looking at different stuff outside of the contractors. In all honesty, I'm not saying stop trying to apply there, but there's a lot of companies on the civilian side that don't require a clearance to do the same job. And yeah, it might be an option for you.
Oh no, I've every job that has security clearance, I automatically deny and just skip it and go to another one. But I've spent 10 months, so I don't care what job. I apply to everything if I fit the rec. I'm just seeing if I can find another approach and pivot. That's all I'm trying to take from this.
Yeah, 100%. I'm sorry you're struggling. That just sucks. I think a lot of times companies don't realize what they're missing out on when they do stuff like that. They're missing out on some of the best potential hires by just automatically denying. So that stinks that that's happening. Let's see. We got time for I think we got time for one or maybe two more. It's sort of up to Randall, but
happy to keep it.
So let's see here. I'm just picking randomly from the folks here that are struggling, and let's say go ahead. Go ahead. I was just gonna say, Deandra, share some of the struggles that you're dealing with and see if there's something that either Randall or I or somebody else from the call can help out with. Deandra Dunson.
Hey, while we're waiting for her to jump on this, Aaron. Hey, going back to your LinkedIn comment, are you saying that I should be tracking down every recruiter for said company that I'm trying to apply for, and sending them a message, doing a lot? Because that's kind of what I've been doing now is I'll look for a company on LinkedIn and just try to connect with anyone and everyone.
Yeah, can I take this one, Randall?
Go ahead.
So you can follow up on whatever I missed, but I think, Aaron, I'm not sure if you're doing this or not, but I would not just focus on recruiters, right? It's not always going to be a recruiter. It's not always going to be a hiring manager. Sometimes it's hiring manager's best buddy that works over in blah department. That's the veteran that served in the same branch as you, maybe even in the same unit as you at one point, or at the same base, right? Make friends with all those people, genuine connections with people that have similar backgrounds as you. And then that person then can walk over to the right person and say, hey, I just met this guy, Aaron. He's transitioning out of the military. He's in SkillBridge. We got to take a look at that. Can you take a look at this guy's resume? That moves your resume to the top of the stack. Then they get to see your resume, which they might not even be seeing it right now. Because to Randall's point, and to the point that we always make here at Seven Eagle Academy, is you apply to a government contractor, you're one of 1,000 people plus that day that did the same thing. So you don't always have to connect with specifically a recruiter or whatever. Look for someone that you would have a cup of coffee with. There's someone that is very similar background as you. Talk to those people and have those people, go on your behalf. It's always better to get a warm intro to someone than to try and cold call or cold message a different. Perfect example, right? I've been with Seven Eagle for almost 3 years now, and I've been trying to get the Oklahoma City Comets to come join us on Seven Eagle Academy and come hire veterans from us. This is just an example. I can't get a hold of anybody. I'm connecting with the hiring managers, the CEOs, the COOs, like all those people. Nothing. Randomly, one of our students just got hired there. And she goes, "Hey, let me introduce you to the top person at the OKC Comets. They want to hire vets from Seven Eagle." I'm like, perfect. So that warm intro is what we're looking for. You're not necessarily looking for the top dog. You're looking for someone that can introduce you to the top dog. That's the key point. What did I miss there, Randall?
You know what? The only thing I excuse me, the only thing I would change or add to that is, remember on LinkedIn, the highest probability of someone accepting a connection request and having a conversation with you is another veteran. So go to these companies, you can actually click the company and, you know, put down all the military branches, and then it'll pull up and show you all the veterans, and then just start having conversations with them. You'd be surprised. Again, it's still a numbers game. Not all are going to want to have a conversation, but the likelihood drastically goes up. So exactly what Tyler you were talking about, and then you build that relationship, and then they go talk to the person, or they tell you who the actual hiring manager is. So, you know, it's happened for me before, so it works.
Yeah, I appreciate the feedback. Sorry to interrupt Deandra's time, but thanks.
Yeah, no worries. Deandra, are you still there? What's some of the things that you're dealing with right now? Oh, you got some connections. Your connection's kind of rough.
Can you hear me?
Maybe could you type it in the
Can
chat?
you hear me?
Yep, we can now, actually.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
My problem is like finding a job in my area, because like I see like other job postings, but they're like in other states, so it's not really like I can like apply.
The contracts are going to go wherever the actual jobs are. So some locations may have more open roles versus other areas, or they may just have it. So like I have one client where I had to work with him where he was dead set on a project manager position. And I was like, well, the only contract that had something like that was one. Both guys were not retiring anytime soon. So I was trying to, like, you have to go and expand your mind a little bit or be open to moving. And it's the same thing with a lot of corporate jobs too. So the same things I'm like telling you, like how happens with, you know, contracting companies. Same way happens with, you know, once you start getting into corporate for any of these companies, you know, it could be someone's buddy or your resume or so many other different things. I mean, people, if someone doesn't like one thing out of like 4 people, you know, that's all it takes is I'm I didn't like that one thing. So, you know, that's how it gets from when they're looking at that to, that's why you have to work and understand it's a numbers game, also a location game while you're going and looking at these jobs and kind of thinking about where you want to be applying and focusing on. So you're not wasting your energy as well, applying to jobs that, you know, are not going to provide a lot of opportunity at.
I mean, that's a good point. The locations are tough sometimes. What I've noticed is they're almost always near like big bases. Like big bases, there's always going to be a big contractor presence. That's why, for me personally, that's why I knew that was not going to be in my cards in the future after I transitioned out of the military, because I was one of those people that was like, I want to get as far away from the base as possible. Deandra, could you put your question in the chat? Just your connection is not strong. I don't know if she heard that or not.
See, one of the few things I mentioned earlier, like I know, like I'm kind of, you know, I love the contracting world just because the opportunities it provides, especially with the amount of retirements that are coming up. But corporate world's just, you know, is pretty much the same thing. It's a lot of the same stuff, just kind of different how they look at things. But, you know, one thing I always like saying the contracting world, whether it's overseas or not, they take good care of you because they want you to make sure you don't have problems, so you know not bringing those problems to work. And how many of you guys have worked with a contractor before where they don't have to do all the stuff that you had to do in the military, so they kind of get a lot more of the better side of the coin now, to where hey, I've only got my requirements to go and do. And after that, like, it's a lot easier for you to manage certain things for the most part. So that's why I like the contracting world. It's a great opportunity. Yes, it's a high risk, high reward. I'll tell people that travel the world, get paid, you make good money, especially if you're overseas. But then there's the risk, like Tyler said, one moment later, no jobs.
Right. There's someone in the chat that has a question. The Zoom name is MP. If you could, number one, ask your question, go ahead. And number two, if you can change your Zoom name to your first and last, so I actually know who you are. I appreciate
yes.
that.
Yes, will do. Can you hear me? My name is Monique Pindell.
Yes.
So my question was to Randall. Thank you for that. I've been taking notes of you as you've been speaking, and I really appreciate, I know building the network is important, but I'm looking at your LinkedIn profile, and I was just wondering, are you able to tell us how much the resume AI service is for the veterans?
Yeah, I build everything out for each individual. As I mentioned earlier, it's a 30 to 60 questionnaire, and then where you go and management dictates certain things too. So as I mentioned earlier, I focus on managers to about director level, and each one has to go focus a little bit on more different levels. The higher up you go, the harder it gets. So the more different things you have to apply to make sure that you're also a good fit, if that makes sense. If I'm applying for an escort position, I wouldn't want to work with you because you have a lot more room to make mistakes and get away with it versus you want to go and get into be a site manager. Okay. I networked into a site manager or my site manager and hiring manager found me, and then they had a conversation with me, loved me, and then I did an initial interview and I got the job. I've not heard of anyone before where the site manager and the hiring manager, they're all chasing after me. It's because you do it with a strategy. So again, that takes time to build out, and it's different for every single person. So reach out to me, send a connection request, be like, hey, Randy, it's from this, and then we'll have a conversation.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for asking.
Custom tailored. Who else has questions before Randall or for Randall before we let him get back to his day? I know there's a lot of folks in this call that are looking for opportunities with government contractors. So throw your hand up. We got time for one more. There it is. Christopher, what you got, brother?
Hey, Randall, it's Chris. So when we're talking about like government contract jobs, right, you hear the instances of, the recruiter reached out to that individual and they like love the resume. Like, how do you stand out to where those instances like naturally happen to where we're not always doing the hunting?
Part of it, or the most important thing, is patience. It's not going to be easy to find that recruiter to fight for you. You will find one eventually. It just takes time. So, it took me, I was dead set on the contract in Afghanistan at the embassy. I wanted the embassy job in Kabul because it was like a brand new facility. I knew about it. And it took me 2 years to get a recruiter to fight for me. And that recruiter, if memory serves correct, is now the director of a major corporation, one of the primes. She made a difference, and I ended up getting approved for that. So that's how I ended up getting my secret clearance. So it does take time. It is a numbers game. These recruiters, they either are not active on there, they're not in the right location, so it's hard to find them, or they get bombarded. You guys also got to understand there's a lot of people that are not able to get these contracts, and foreigners from overseas. They will just bombard all these people sometimes with just messages. So it's really just got to figure it out. You got to find a way to break in and just kind of find one person. Who else should I talk to? Boom, boom. Okay, here's veterans I found through LinkedIn. Okay, boom, boom. Go talk to these two. And then you kind of just keep growing and growing. And then that's how you start getting in there to where having conversations, especially like you guys have an AI conversation with someone that's wanting to learn about it, that's not familiar with it, it's going to go a lot easier too. So that's where that comes in handy a lot. I mean, just learning AI and just in your job in general makes a huge difference now. But does that help out, Chris? Like it's a numbers game. You just got to be proactive and just find that person and be willing to engage with them and just have conversations. It is going to take a lot of time up to. Not even going to sugarcoat that.
Yeah, that's some great advice. That's like what I was kind of looking for too, because I was like, you put out all these applications, and you're like, is it just time? Is it like, because I know these shutdown, it's like bad timing for most of us if we're trying to go for these contracting jobs. Um, but at the same time, like most of my network that like I've served with, they're furloughed right now, so they don't even have any say.
Yeah. So the last, yeah, there's a lot of people didn't plan for this. So, but the nice thing is now is once these things start changing and everyone starts coming back, is all the jobs are going to come back eventually. And whether it's this or another company, building out that, if I can give you guys the best advice, again, better than your resume and your LinkedIn profile is having that network. It takes a lot of times like a small snowball, and you got to build it up to where it's huge. And you have to build it up to where you have a network. So that's just there. So when you need it, you have it readily available. So to also build up a good network, it's going to take you 6 months to a year, depending on the type of job you want. It's going to take even longer. The other thing that I'm strongly recommend everyone start doing is once you fix your LinkedIn headline, because people see the first 45 characters, comment and post. That is how you stay on top of those recruiters. Hey, the company put out a page like, hey, this is something we're doing like now. Okay, great. Hey, I know about that, yada, yada, decided now everyone corporate saw it, because all the corporate CEOs and VPs, they want to look good, so they got to like the post. So at the very least, they're going to see that comment. Then you start commenting on things that these individuals are looking at. And again, you're just going to pop up in their feed, and they're just consistently see Christopher. You're going to see your name, and they're going to see your headline, and they're going to see operations manager. Okay, now I'm seeing again operations. Now I'm seeing again operations manager, and you just do that continuously. So that's also how you're going to stay on top of mind, not just for them, but at scale for everyone. So that's also some other things that again that I teach people, like you don't just do one angle, you start attacking it every different, like in the military, we're not going to go straight on. We're going to start getting it from all these different angles. And that's how you just start making a big impact, especially for something you want. Because you shouldn't be applying to tons of jobs anyways, everyone. I don't want you guys, you shouldn't be doing like 100 jobs per week. Like that's way too much. You should be just focusing on, maybe 10 or 20, like niche down. Like people don't want someone that's a jack of all trades. They say that, but no, they don't. You need to meet the requirements. That's what they're looking for. And then anything past that is a bonus.
I really appreciate the time you spent with us today, Randall. Really appreciate the information that you provided. Just so you guys know, we've dropped Randall's LinkedIn link in the chat multiple times. It's the second one from the bottom right now. If you have any questions about this process, want to pick Randall's brain, learn more about his AI enhanced career coaching strategies, you can connect with him on LinkedIn, reach out there. And yeah, again, Randall, thanks so much for taking the time today. I know I personally connected with you on LinkedIn. And so obviously reach out to me anytime. Appreciate what you're doing for our community.
All right. Thank you. Appreciate it, everyone.
Yep. I want to really quickly, before we pass it off here, I want to drop a link in the chat. For those of you not already using this, you can use whatever application or outreach tracker that you want to use. You can use ours if you want to. I dropped it in the chat there. Or you can use it as an example to create your own, whatever works for you, but staying organized is part of this process as well. So like if you guys maybe not applying to 100 jobs a week, but if you're talking to a lot of people, it might be worth, organizing that information. So if you want to use our application tracker, I just dropped the link in the chat there, and you're welcome to use